Ilona is a strategy and change director at Wex Photo Video based in Norwich. She is heavily involved in several community initiatives, having recently volunteered at Nordev Conference. She is a DevelopHER Award winner and a codebar Norwich chapter organiser. And she is running the London Marathon for codebar later this month. I am so excited to speak to you today. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm having a busy day, but everything is going well, and it's nice to be here with you.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to speak to me today. I'm so excited to, dive deeper into your journey in tech, how you got started, where you are today, and that fun path that you've gone down. I think I want to start with your role because it's actually not a role I've ever really heard of before. So I'm really intrigued to know, like, what does a strategy and change director do?
That's a good question. Uh, I think it's a bit of a combination of responsibilities which resulted in such a long role name, strategy and change director. But essentially, what I do is I am responsible for the strategic initiatives across Wex Photo Video. We are the leading provider of photo and video equipment in the UK. So when I say I'm responsible for the strategic initiatives, I mean all of the key projects, all of the ideas that we are trying to bring to the market, and also just helping the teams make change happen. So there is a huge element of change management in my role. There is also identifying the opportunities and just helping the whole company to reach our strategic goals. Part of my role is also being responsible for innovation and AI. And with AI, it's not just for Wex Photo Video, but I'm responsible for rolling out AI initiatives in the whole group that we are part of, the European Imaging Group, which consists of six companies at the moment.
Okay, interesting. And what I love having people on the podcast whose role is quite unfamiliar to me because I think it also just demonstrates how varied tech can be. There isn't just software engineer, data analyst. Like there are actually so many different roles in tech, and it's definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to speak to you today. And I know at Wex Photo Video you've had several different roles, and I really like that when people are at companies, they're able to change direction, change role. What was the motive or reasoning behind having and or moving roles internally?
I'm always keen to learn and progress. That's really one thing that always keeps me going. Um, I'm a type of a person who gets bored if nothing is happening or if I feel that I'm stagnating. So I've always been motivated to explore something new, to take on some new responsibilities, which resulted in the multiple role change. But when I started, I was the lead business analyst. And then the next natural progression from there was me becoming the head of projects. So for me, it was really that next step and signifying that I'm not just responsible for the business analysis and looking after the business analysis team, but it was more encompassing and including all of the aspects of running projects with different teams. So it wasn't purely IT related. It was any kind of a technology or process related project within the company that I would typically be getting involved in. So that was my second role. And then at the time, I was completing my MBA degree at the University of East Anglia, and I was learning more about the business side of things. And I felt like I was ready to take on more responsibilities and go on a more strategic level from the operational level that I was in being the head of projects. So the next step was becoming the program and change director. And whilst I was delivering both the technology and process related projects, it was more around technology. So working with various team in the company, but mainly identifying the gaps which we could plug in with implementing various bits of software or making some technological changes. Um, And then the final step was becoming the strategy and change director. And that was really that shift, like the final shift from the operational to the strategic level. It was really looking at the impact of those wider initiatives, trying to reach company-wide goals and those strategic objectives that we have, and aligning all of the departments, seeing what the impact of those changes was, and just really seeing the bigger picture rather than focusing specifically on projects.
And I always think it's so cool when companies allow someone to move internally. Sometimes you hear of companies that don't allow, people to switch roles. And I always really like it when I hear stories like that, when, company, it sounds like the company are really allowing you to learn, doing an MBA whilst learning, like whilst working, sorry, like that's so cool. And then, because of that, then changing role. Like, yeah, I always really love it, shall I say, when I hear that companies are allowing you to progress, and get better and develop. I think that part of it is so cool.
Yeah, very much so. I feel very supported, and it was great to see that my efforts have been appreciated and that there was support for me to develop into those more strategic roles. With the MBA, though, I was doing the MBA in my evenings and weekends. So, so when you're saying
Okay.
that I was studying whilst working, I was, but it was really tiring evenings and weekends. And after 2.5 years of doing that, I was glad to get my evenings back.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what was the motive behind wanting to do an MBA, like on top of your job? Because that's a lot of work.
It is, but I was always interested in studying. I already had two business degrees from back in Ukraine, where I'm originally from. And I always wanted to have a degree from a UK-based university, having
Okay.
built my career here. So that was one of the motivations. But also, I felt that to become a more senior leader and being able to take a step back to see that bigger picture rather than being one of the operational managers, I really needed some more knowledge and also some more expertise. And I found that the MBA degree offered me exactly that, because it wasn't like the theoretical degrees that I had for my bachelor's and my master's, which were business degrees, but they were very much from a book. So somebody teaching us how to do business, but quite often the professors themselves have never actually built a business. Whilst the MBA degree was very applicable and very practical, because a lot of the professors had real life experience, but mainly the people who were on the course, they were already in very high positions. It was a course for somebody who's already made a career, quite been quite high up, and all of them were doing it in the evenings and weekends. So people were really motivated. You could tell the difference between somebody who would be a full timer quite early in their career doing that, such a degree, to somebody who is quite far in their career already and they are dedicating this extra time to do the degree. So you could definitely see the difference. So being in the room with all those people, I felt like I was learning more from them than I was even learning from the course materials, because we would have discussions in the room. We had so many people from other sectors that I've never been involved in, like, for example, the NHS. It seems very popular in the NHS to do an MBA degree. We had quite a lot of people from private sector, from some industries where typically I would never have that internal knowledge and insights. But having those people in the room, discussing the problems that they face, being the leaders of those businesses, talking about how it is to work in those companies, to run those companies. I felt like I've learned more from that than I've learned from any other book or any other experience that I had. So that was absolutely amazing. And I would say that was the key for me to complete the MBA, to actually learn from the wider experience that I would typically not have access to. And another aspect, I love networking and building the network of contacts and meeting new people. That was also huge. That was a huge motivator to doing the MBA degree, and it delivered that and more. I feel like I've met so many amazing people along the way. I'm still friends with. So I feel very blessed and thankful for the whole experience. It was honestly, it was amazing.
You know, it sounds amazing. And I think you touched on something which is really nice, which is actually the huge importance of peer-to-peer learning. And it's something I always try to say to, codebar students as well, is that, don't just rely on your coaches to, help you and guide you, because actually, yes, there's maybe two of you that are, quote, students, but actually you both may have learned, such different things. And I think exactly like you said, like peer-to-peer learning and the experience that someone can bring is often so much more powerful than anything you can just read in a book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this peer-to-peer experience, and also I've met some people who it wasn't really planned, but they kind of became my mentors along the way. And that was also due to doing that degree, to seeing what those people are like and hearing about their experience. I felt that there is something I can learn from that person. So then it resulted in a kind of a mentoring relationship in a way, but quite often it would be a two-way mentoring relationship. And it was just, yeah, it was great.
And like you say, you can learn so much from each other, like, yes, it's this kind of mentorship level, but you've got all this experience that you're bringing that person have, and there is so much you can learn from each other. The other thing I think you touched on, which I'm now going to circle back to, is the importance of networking actually. And
Mm.
you're a part of so many like initiatives, outside of work, community initiatives. You volunteered at Nordev recently, which is a big conference in Norwich that happens every year. I went to it 2 years ago. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? I can't remember, and it is
I think
great.
I think you did a talk there, I seem to remember.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, I did one of the closing talks, and it was lovely, and I really like Norwich as a place. And something I always really like to highlight on this podcast is, the importance of tech communities, and so what does being part of all of these tech communities, mean to you?
I think being part of the tech community is something that gives me the drive and the motivation to explore more. Before I met all those people, there were so many areas of tech and business that I wasn't aware of, or perhaps I didn't have enough expertise, or didn't even think about exploring. But then you meet different people, you hear about their experience, and then naturally I become curious about, oh, they said that they are doing this. I wonder how they're doing this. So then it triggers that new learning path that I would take and learn something new. And I just feel like everyone has been so supportive in the Norfolk tech community. And when I was starting, when I didn't really have much experience, when I felt like a bit of an outsider because I'm not technical. So when I was going to those first networking events, first I didn't know anybody. Then I felt like I don't have the technical knowledge. All of them do. And I just felt like your cliche phrase of being an imposter, all the imposter syndromes, I felt all of that. But people have been so supportive that momentarily I just felt at ease. I felt at home. I felt like it's okay not to know, and nobody's expecting me not to know things. And I also felt that I was bringing value. People were talking to me about some other areas. For example, technical people are not always very clued on business, whilst I was. So I felt like I can teach them something, they can teach me something, and it was becoming that symbiotic relationship. And after having gone to so many networking meetings and meeting so many interesting people, I just felt like just how they supported me at the start. I want to support other people who are in a very similar position when they only just start out, when they just come into that networking meeting for the first time. And that's why I'm doing everything I can to onboard new tech community members, to volunteer at different conferences, to be part of different organizations, such as the one you mentioned, Nordev, and obviously codebar. And it's just nice to see how people are joining, being very fresh and nervous, to then seeing their journey and how they develop and flourish, and just thinking, I might have had a part in it. And I feel like I'm giving back that kindness that somebody offered to me a few years ago. And it just makes me feel good and makes me want to continue doing that in a tech environment.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. It's definitely the reason why, I still do codebar very selfishly because I love hearing those stories, particularly like you say, when you know you played a part in it, you hear those stories of someone's now working in tech or, not even necessarily worked in tech, but they may have progressed in a different way because that, can happen at somewhere like codebar. When you hear those stories and even for me, if I've played the tiniest part in helping them do that, it's just so self like satisfying. And yeah, it's yeah, definitely one of the reasons I still do code bar very selfishly, but I
Yeah.
love hearing those stories as well.
Yeah, and it is very satisfying. It's such a different experience. You mentioned that I had a DevelopHER Award. Yes, I won a DevelopHER Award a few years ago, and I felt amazing at the time, thinking, "Wow, I've been noticed, and my efforts have been appreciated." But then a few years after that, when my mentee got her DevelopHER Award, it felt 100 times better because I felt like
Oh,
I actually took part in it. I
yeah,
helped that, and they just felt more amazing for so many more reasons. But
yeah,
it's definitely something that just make it worth it.
yeah. And you must have felt so proud, again, like you say, to know that you played a part in that, to see them, up on stage collecting that award.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's such an amazing story and just so like wholesome as well. So I want to take you back to when you were younger because I think I am always also intrigued around, when your fascination in tech started. For some people that is slightly older. For some people, that was when they're younger. Can you remember when your interest in tech started and maybe that seed was planted for, maybe this is a career for me. Can you remember?
You see, it was very different for me. When you were saying, when did your fascination with tech start? I was going to say never, because I was,
Okay.
yeah, because I was never a technical person, and
Yeah.
me starting in tech was quite accidental.
Okay.
So I was very much into business. I did my business degrees. I always knew that I will be working within businesses. At some point, I was thinking I'll be in marketing. Then I was thinking about just being a business owner, all those ideas. And then as I was working in a job of a business advisor, I was helping people start businesses, something I wanted to do. I, in my mind, I had a very clear progression path. I wanted to become a senior within that role to help more people start businesses. And then it just happened that the company that I was working for at the time needed a CRM system implemented. And my manager at the time suggested that I applied for the role of a project manager who would implement the system. And when I heard that, I actually felt a bit hurt. I felt like, is she trying to get rid of me? So am I not doing a good enough job as a business advisor? What is this? What is this side step? And I never knew what project managers did at the time. And this whole concept of implementing a CRM, I was just thinking that's probably very boring. But then, having thought about it, I saw that it was actually an opportunity. I'm glad I took it. And I started as a project manager slash business analyst, delivering that CRM system for the company that was offering business advice to people. And then from there, I was headhunted to do something similar in a BA slash PM capacity for an AI company. And once again, it was a completely new world to me. I've never been involved in AI or anything really tech involved. So it was it was very different to the career path that I saw for myself. And then I realized that I was loving it and I was quite good at it. And once again, I wouldn't say that I was fascinated with tech. I wasn't fascinated with tech. I was fascinated with being that bridge between the business and tech and making it possible for tech solutions to be implemented and taken up by business people. Business side was something that I felt that I understood and I could learn. But then having learned about tech, I was able to kind of interpret and be in the middle And I enjoyed that. And then from there, I had a few job changes, but around business analyst, project manager, program manager, and so on. And then when I started in my current organization, I already mentioned what job roles I had, but it was me kind of going back to business, but with having all this tech experience along the way. And I love it. And now when I think about some business improvements, quite often it ends up being something that tech can solve. I still don't understand lines of code. I cannot code and I wouldn't want to, but I love how I can understand how we can make it happen by involving the right people, the development team, the business people, making it happen, delivering what everyone is expecting. And when I can orchestrate that and make it happen, that's really something that makes me tick.
And there's something you said earlier, which I'm going to strongly disagree with. You said you weren't technical. And actually, I'm going to strongly disagree with that because, you know, you are, yes, okay, you said you're not writing lines of code, but there are so many areas of tech, like you say, that you've been involved in. You know exactly what you want to do, you know exactly the people that you want to involve. So, yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. And I would say you are actually very technical.
You should have. Well, no, I kind of agree with you a bit, but you should have seen the pathetic effort that I've made in writing some JavaScript or HTML. I don't
Yeah.
even remember what it was, but I had a project with one of the local boot camps when they were trying to teach me to do front end development. So if you had seen that, I think you would have taken your words back. But but yes, yeah, I see your point. And now I understand what tech can deliver. I understand how to make it happen. I can select the right tech solutions, and it's quite a big part of my job, talking to tech providers, selecting the right solutions. But still, I would never consider myself as a technical person because when we are having that technical discussion and the developers are talking about coding and getting excited about code, you wouldn't see me getting excited about that, but I get excited about what it will deliver in the end.
And I think that's why, and to me, that's why tech is wonderful because I think, there are so many areas to tech. You don't have to be a developer to be in tech, to be technical, like, and I think that to me, that's why tech is actually such a wonderful place to be a part of because it isn't just, it's not like a doctor that's, very like linear, you're kind of in one industry, not industry, but, there's kind of one thing and, that's kind of it. Or, like a dentist, or, like so maybe, well, I guess a lawyer's are a bit difficult, but I think you know what I mean. But like actually tech, I think you can be technical, you can write code, but actually you can be very technical in many, many other ways, and actually you have so much technical knowledge that, yeah, okay, it's not related to coding, but there are so many other areas to tech. So yeah, I still disagree with you.
I think it's the beauty of the industry, like you said,
Yeah,
that you can have very different levels of expertise and very different backgrounds and still be successful within
yeah.
tech. And also, like I said, people are very supportive in the tech environment. At least what I've seen, at least what I've seen my community experienced as well. I think it's one of the most open-minded industries, and people who work in tech, they are used to so many varieties of the skill sets that people come with, that they're really open-minded, and it's actually very beneficial to have people with varying degrees of technical abilities and other knowledge to be in the same team. Because if you put all of the technical people in the same team, they will come up with a technical solution, but they wouldn't think about other aspects. But when you add someone who's business oriented, somebody who's creative, somebody with some other areas of expertise, then that's when the magic happens, because they challenge, they ask questions which are a little bit outside of the typical development process, which makes people think about some other aspects which haven't been considered. And that's the beauty of the tech industry.
for anyone just listening and not watching, my head is just like frantically nodding and just agreeing with you. And you know, one of my favorite things about the tech industry is I don't know any other industry where people just share the knowledge that they have, that they give conference talks, they do mentorship, they take part in, community initiatives. Like not that I'm aware of, I don't know any other industry where people just freely share all the things that they know for free.
Yeah.
Often, and like even like so there are so many like local meetups, in all of these locations, and again, that's where people come up and gives talks. So yeah, I not that I'm aware of, I don't know any other industries where people, yeah, so freely just share all the things that they know. I think
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
I completely agree with you on that. I worked in other industries before, and I've never felt as supported, and I've never felt, like you said, people are willing to share their time for free. You can just, all you need to do is just reach out and ask. And that's what I've been doing as part of my networking. And that's how I learned so many things. If I didn't know something, I would reach out to the expert in the field, and very often they would just agree to having a chat with no payment, with no obligation, with not even, it's not like somebody had to introduce me specifically. It's just really reaching out and saying, look, I think you're great at what you do, and I would love to learn about a particular aspect. And people are willing to then talk about it and teach you and share it. It's amazing. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do. When I feel like I can share my expertise, I always would.
Yeah, yeah, it's so wonderful. So for anyone listening to this, we get a lot of listeners who are, thinking of entering tech, maybe they're starting their tech journey. What advice would you have for anyone who is thinking of entering tech, or, are about to enter for the first time? Like, what advice do you have for them?
I think my main bits of advice would be to network, to learn more about what exactly you would want to do, because quite often people know that they would want to end up in tech, but they don't know in which capacity, and they don't really have the full overview of the roles available in tech and what every role does, and even like trying to understand the difference between what does a business analyst do? What does a product owner do? What does a product manager do? So all those aspects, they feel really overwhelming when you start and you don't really know where you need to be starting, what aspect you need to be approaching it from. So network, speak to many people who are in those roles and just ask about how did they get in, what their advice would be, and then you would understand and you would actually pick the area which would be most suitable for you. But another aspect is that you don't have to make a decision straight away, and it doesn't have to be final. You can start in a certain capacity. Perhaps you would start as a junior developer and then realize it's not quite for you. But with the knowledge that you gained, you can then easily transfer to another role within tech. I know some people who went from junior developers to then being product owners because they felt like they would rather do that than spend their time writing code, or the other way around. So it's very welcoming, the whole community, and the companies with bigger technical teams, they're also promoting for people to move around in different capacities and try different skills. So network, learn about roles, start in some capacity and then make a decision if you want to change it to something else. But the main thing is to start, because a lot of people are overthinking and put those blockers in the way, thinking that they are not good enough, that they don't know enough yet to then join and start in tech. So the main thing is to start and speak to people. And then another thing is just learn, continue learning, because it's one of the most dynamic industries. Things change all the time. So it's not like you've learned everything there was to learn to start with, and then you are automatically successful in that job role for the next 20 or 30 years. It's not going to happen, because things change so often that you need to gain some new knowledge, you need to adapt. Sometimes you need to completely change what you are doing, because some things are becoming more relevant, some things are becoming less relevant. And if you want to continue being relevant in your position and in your career. Just continue learning and going back to my favorite, networking and attending events. There are so many events where you can keep up to date with the industry trends. So yeah, keep active, keep going to networking events and conferences.
I think that's such wonderful advice. And, I agree with everything. I think tech is one of those industries where you have to enjoy learning because exactly like you said, it changes all the time. So, you just have to enjoy learning. And before you go, I can't let you go without quickly talking about the London Marathon. It's coming up very soon. You're running the London Marathon for Codebar, which we are so appreciative of. How is the training going?
I am loving it. I am so
Oh, good.
excited. I'm so excited for this opportunity. When I saw the email come out saying that if you would like to run the London Marathon for Code Bar, sign up here. And first I was thinking it's never going to happen. They're never going to pick me because there are so many people who would want to run. And then I thought, well, I'll sign up and try. And then when I got the confirmation that I was picked to run for Code Bar, I was just over the moon. I was like, oh my God, it's finally happening because, as you probably know, the ballot for the London Marathon is so difficult to get into. I tried it for so many years unsuccessfully. So then I was like, right, it's time to start my training. And I had the training plan, but I don't really like to have a very rigid plan because it makes it boring for me. I like to go by how I feel. I have a rough plan, knowing that I need to do at least 3 runs a week, 2 short ones, and 1 long one over the weekend. And that's what I try to stick to. And it's going really well at the moment. I already did 20 miles. So last Sunday I did 20 miles. So I feel I pretty much ready. I just need to keep it up. I need to keep my energy levels up. And hopefully it will be a bit easier now that my 15-month-old daughter is sleeping through the night.
Yeah.
Um, s- so yeah, I just need to continue. I'm enjoying it, and also I like having that target in my head that I've got the London Marathon, so I need to continue training. I cannot stop now. So if sometimes I'm feeling a bit lazy or tired, and with a full-time job and a baby, it does happen very often. I still know, no, I need to go out. I need to run a certain amount of miles so that I can perform in the marathon. And yeah, I am looking forward to it.
And you know what? I mean, I've not done it. I'm thinking of doing it. Maybe I'll enter next year for Coat Bars on. I don't know. But so many people, like I say so many people, a few people I know who have done it have actually said as well, on the day, the crowd just keeps you going. Like the crowd is like no other, so yeah, I'm so buzzing for you. I've heard, it's hard, but I've heard that it's also like life changing in so many ways. It's amazing. So yeah, just thank you from Cobar, for running for us. You are fundraising, so I will pop the link to donate if you want to in this video description and in the notes for the podcast episode as well. But yeah, just thank you so much, Ilona, for coming on this podcast today and speaking to me. I've loved hearing your journey and, where you got to today. And so, yeah, just thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
And good luck with the London Marathon.
Thank you.